Om Shanti Om Panyuto. Okay, let's do the 4 limitless contemplations, if you can, Kat. May all beings have happiness and create the causes of happiness. May they all be free from suffering and creating the causes of suffering. May they find that noble happiness which can never be tainted by suffering. May they attain universal impartial compassion, free of worldly bias towards friends and enemies. And I'm adding to that. And may this really occur with all of you, that you don't create any causes of suffering in the holidays, that you create lots of causes of happiness, lots of light over all the impoverished areas of the world, over the wars, over the hostages, over the people who've lost people, that we really put this, may they all be free from suffering and creating the causes of suffering. Semchen damje dewa tang dewe ju tang den pa ju chik, dungal chichu tang tra wa ju chik, dungal mepe dewa tampa tang mindra wa ju chik, Nering chak tang ni tang trawe tang non chimpo la ne pa ju chik. It's on the passage table. Hi, everybody. It's lovely to see you at the end of the year. That's better. Nice to see you, Diana. Very nice. And Yum, I haven't seen for a long time. And there's my little Pammy. She's here. It's lovely to see all of you. And tonight, I've really called it is the last of a whole big series that we have been doing over the last about 8 weeks. It's the last one that we're doing. And I've called it Relax and Release. Relax and Release. New beginnings. And if I look at the earth plane, it really looks like we need new beginnings. It's really, really important that we do. That release part is so important. That relaxation, Linz, I'm happy your camera's on today. That release part is very important, but you can't release unless you relax. So it's really important, and I'm going to give you a lovely teaching on that. So I'm going to start off with a little story called The Echo of Life. A man and his son were walking in the forest. Suddenly, the boy trips and feeling a sharp pain, he screams, "Ah!" Surprised, he hears a voice coming from the mountain. "Ah!" Filled with curiosity, he screams, "Who are you?" But the only answer he receives is, "Who are you?" This makes him angry, so he screams, "You are a coward." And the voice answers, "You are a coward." He looks at his father asking, "Dad, what's going on?" "Son," the man replies, "pay attention." Then he screams, "I admire you." And the voice answers, "I admire you." The father shouts, "You are wonderful." And the voice answers, "You are wonderful." The boy is surprised, but he still can't understand what's going on. Then the father explains, people call this echo, but truly it is life. When you hear that echo giving you back that thing, life always gives you back what you give out. Life is a mirror of your actions. If you want more love, give more love. If you want more kindness, give more kindness. If you want understanding and respect, give understanding and respect. If you want people to be patient and respectful to you, give patience and respect. And this rule of nature applies to every aspect of our lives. Life always gives you back what you give out. Your life is not a coincidence, but a mirror of your own doings. Now, I really think that is so important to understand, because people don't understand. People always say to me, "What's going on?" Surely, if these people weren't in that war-torn zone, or weren't on this place, or weren't in Palestine, or weren't here, would that have happened to them? But what fascinates me is that certain people were visiting that particular place when this particular thing happened, and vice versa. And so there isn't a coincidence why people are in a particular place at a particular time. And if you look at that echo, it's really important, because what you put in comes back, but the only trouble is we can't always see the previous lives. So we don't know what we put in the previous lives. So all we can do in the echo is change. Not you're a coward, you're wonderful, and then maybe it comes back to us. Now, Jigme Lingpa said, the yogin, that's a person who's enlightened, no longer differentiates between himself and the outside world. So he has reached, in quote, the hidden valley of suchness. It's a very, very important phrase. The hidden valley of suchness, the place of ultimate reality. Now that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to reach the place of ultimate reality so that we can see through the pureness of our eyes rather than through the negative perception that we've actually created. And if you realize emptiness, which if you went to the talks I gave, and you can catch up if you didn't, that emptiness was one of the 3 doors of liberation. And I just want to go back to what Mingyur Rinpoche said about emptiness, just to remind you, because it's so relevant with this topic. He says, the sense of openness people experience when they simply rest their minds. You're not doing anything, you're not meditating, you're not going forth. Just when you rest your mind for a minute from all the meanderings and thinking and everything, if you rest your mind, that's known in Buddhist terms as emptiness. But he says it's the most misunderstood term in the whole Buddhist philosophy. And he says Westerners misinterpret emptiness as nothingness. Our fridge is empty. That's a terrible thing. But it's not nothingness. It's actually, he says, nothing could be further from the truth. Tongpa, the Tibetan word, means empty, but only in the sense of something beyond our ability to perceive. That was what I was talking about. Beyond our ability to perceive with our senses and our capacity to conceptualize. And he says a better translation of Tongpa would be inconceivable, unnameable. You can't put a sign on it. You can't do any of those. And he says, in Tibetan, the word emptiness is Tongpa Ni. I told you this when I was doing it. And Ni doesn't have a particular meaning in Tibetan, but when added to another word, if you put Ni with Tongpa, it conveys a sense of possibility, an unlimited potential for anything to appear, change, or disappear. And it's so important that we understand that, because, you know, I've sat, you know, over this past little while, really dealing with people that are going through immense suffering. And I keep telling them, this suffering is full of possibility. Don't just see this suffering as like, this is a terrible thing that's happened to me, and why has it happened to me? We've created it, and we need to look with that pure perception about what is being mirrored back to us. It's really important. So I just want to say that in Mahamudra and other traditions, the central focus is to see that everything has one taste. Now, one taste is a really important concept. One taste means that when the mind is peaceful and calm, doesn't matter what you're going through. I think of all those hostages and what they've been through in this dark tunnel. I mean, how they survived, some of them, in this dark tunnel is really horrific. You know, you wonder what happened to their mind. But in one taste, it means that when the mind is peaceful and calm, whatever arises just comes and goes. Comes and goes. Remember that phrase. Remember it over this period of time. It comes and it goes when you have one taste. And it has this quality, a Sanskrit word called sahaj, which means effortlessly arising, spontaneously arising, and vanishing. The essence is, if you're not grasping onto it, this is bad. Look what I'm going through in my life. This is suffering, and keep thinking about the same stuff. If you do that, then you go back to it. But here it says, it's all a flow of luminosity, ungraspable luminosity. Let it arise. Don't create it yourself. Isn't that interesting? Don't create it yourself. I mean, we do have to create lots of things, but I'm talking about when you're in a bad situation. It's easy when you're in a happy situation. But when you're in a bad situation, don't create more negativity about it. Just remember those words. It comes and goes. It comes and goes one way or another. If you're in a situation where you might have to die, it comes and goes. And if you die, then you die and you carry on, and hopefully you know what you're doing a little bit so that you can actually use that situation. But we don't trust in the ground, in the true nature of our being. And we get this desperate thinking, if I don't work out how my life is going to be, it's going to collapse. But we only trust the ego, not the mandala of our hearts. Ego is a habit formation, but in the mandala of your heart, you have the 5 wisdom families, and each of them has a different pure perception and pure solution to everything that there is. And once we can understand and trust the mandala, not the outside situation, and not ego's motives and ego's manipulations, once we can do that, we home and dry. We one taste. Doesn't matter what's happening. It's really important. So I think this beautiful story of the carpenter, I might have read it before, but I think it's very relevant here. An elderly carpenter was ready to retire. He told his employer contractor of his plans to leave the house building business and live a more leisurely life with his wife, enjoying his extended family. He would miss the paycheck, but he needed to retire and they could get by. The contractor was sorry to see his good worker go and asked if he could build just one more house as a personal favor. The carpenter said yes, he would. But in time, it was easy to see that his heart was not in his work. He wanted to leave now, and he resorted to shoddy workmanship and used inferior materials. It was an unfortunate way to end a very dedicated career. When the carpenter finished his work, the employer came to inspect the house. He handed the front door key to the carpenter. "This is your house," he said, "my gift to you." The carpenter was shocked. What a shame. If only he'd known he was building his own house, he would have done it all so differently. And so it is with us. We build our lives a day at a time, often putting less than our best into the building. Then with a shock, we realize we have to live in the house we have built. Going back to the story of the echo, life echoes back what we put in. So there he was in this house. And if we could do it over, we'd do it much differently. But we can't go back. You are the carpenter. Each day you hammer a nail, place a board, or erect a wall. Life is a do-it-yourself project. Someone has said, your attitudes and your choices build the house you live in tomorrow. So be careful. As you're building each thing, be very, very careful and put your best shot into it. So I want to come now back to that title, the title of relax and release, new beginnings. Okay. How do we get new beginnings when we've been in life so long? Okay, how do we get new beginnings when we're tired and old and weary and sick and tired of things and battling and everything? Okay, new beginnings, says James Lowe, tend to be more refreshing than stale old continuums. Can we find a way to enter each moment as a fresh beginning? Can we find a way? We spend our lives acquiring knowledge. I mean, I say often to Guru Rinpoche, please, if I have to come back and do another incarnation, just don't make me go through school and university. That's all I'm asking you, okay? Because everything I learned there was just rubbish. Maybe I learned how to multiply. Maybe I learned how to know if I got 10 Rand and got it back. But I go, please, Guru Rinpoche, if I have to come back just in an ordinary body, please let me come to a Buddhist family that teaches me that right from day one, but don't make me go to school again. Okay, I just can't. And I've been so many times. This knowledge that we acquire, this knowledge that we acquire from schools, from everything, James Lowe says, that is the basics of prediction. We learn things. Why? So that we can predict how the outcome will be. That's what we learn at school, predictions, although they give all the wrong predictions, but still. For some things, in some periods of our lives, predictions is useful. For example, the practical skills of speaking a language, writing, technology, how to drive a car. Then we need to be able to predict these things. But, says James Lowe, when it comes to people, we cannot predict. Cannot predict. It is absolutely impossible for us to predict, okay? He says, human beings are the most rapidly changing of any being in the 6 realms. They change every single second. People change, okay? He says in the 6 realms, for example, if you study the hell realms, if you study them, I'm glad you're back, Eugene. If you study the hell realms, you'll see what happens in the hell realms. They tell you that if a person is in a hellish state of mind, okay, they die, or even while they're alive, they go into the hell realms, okay? And what happens in the hell realms? Repetition. So what happens is, let's say they're in the middle of a boiling pit and the 2 mountains descend on them, and now all their skin gets torn off and they're screaming, and then it's over. And then it repeats itself, and then it's over. And so it goes in all the other realms. It's so much repetition. The wars of the jealous gods in the jealous are repetitious, but human beings are not. They're unpredictable and they're changing every single minute. He says, human beings are like quicksilver, like mercury, shifting and shimmering all the time. They just keep on changing. He says, so how do we stay? Oh, he says, the reason we're here is to take responsibility for the fact that where we are is the result of everything we ourselves have created and what use we have made of every opportunity offered. So how do you stay with the freshness of other people when they're unpredictable and when all the rubbish I learned at school and university doesn't help me? You know, even if I look at what I learned at university about counseling people, I mean, I learned nothing. Absolutely nothing. Okay, I started to learn when I started to work with people. Then I learned what people are. When I came into Buddhism, then I thought, this helping people is such a superficial thing. You help their psychophysical, framework. You're not getting to the end of it. So you help someone who's depressed, how they can cope with the depression. but you never get to the karmic imprint of what created that depression in the first place. So now I don't do anything like I ever did before. I just look at somebody and I'm looking at their karmic tapestry and I'm working out what is it that they're needing to learn? What is the wisdoms that they're needing to face? What is the mandala in their heart that they're needing to face? So you have to be fresh and open yourself. And he says the Dharma studies talks about the 3 pot faults. I love this. 3 pot faults. I'll give you a chance to discuss in 1 minute that limit your learning. So they look at the pots in 3 ways. The first one is, don't be like an upturned pot, because nothing can get in. Okay, so if you're a pot that goes like that, nothing can get in, at all. Hello, Ev. You'll have to go back for the beginning. An upturned pot, a pot that turns over, means you can't put anything into the pot. Now, do you know how many people are like upturned pots? Sometimes I say to people, open a little. Stop the lid closing yourself in with all your preconceived stupid ideas. I don't say that, but that's what I'm thinking about them. Open up. So don't be like a pot that nothing can get into because it's turned upside down. Secondly, don't be like a pot with a hole in it, because then you can't hold on to whatever you've been taught and explained. Now think about what he's saying there. He's saying, if you've got a hole, that hole is where your human mind escapes into all different thoughts that distract you like anything. So you've got a hole in you. Your human mind keeps going to whatever's there, and whatever you're getting in the truth just runs out the other end like in a hole. Okay, so don't be a pot with a hole in it. Then thirdly, don't be like a pot with old food already in it. I love these 3 pots. I wrote it down because I love it. Don't be like a pot that's got old food in it already, because then whatever fresh new food you put in the pot will only go bad. Those are all the people that are stuck in the past, in their old things, stuck, absolutely stuck. And he says, when you make an assumption about other people, so you come in to a place and somebody antagonizes you or says something that rings a bell or talks like your father that you dislike, that punished you all the time, or takes no notice of you, ignores you, and straight away you make assumptions about other people and it work also, and how things should be done. If you do that, if you make assumption, you're like a pot with old food in it. Okay, you keep on making assumptions about people. Why? Because you're insecure. You can't be fresh in the beginning. You can't see anything new. So you're like a pot. So he says, how do we keep the pot clean? 2 things to keep the pot clean. To keep in mind impermanence is one of the most important things in the world, because whatever you're going through is impermanent. And if you're happy and going through a lovely time, it's also impermanent. You see, so you can enjoy it, but you can't hang on to it, that when it goes, then when it goes, then you haven't got that anymore. Okay. And so 1 is impermanence, and 2 is you keep in mind the illusory quality of phenomena. You keep in mind that everything in your environment, that's how you start with a fresh beginning. It's all illusory content, okay, quality of phenomena. You can't grasp onto anything reliable. It's never stable. And the analogy in Buddhism is like a thief that enters an empty house. There's nothing to grasp and nothing to steal. So both the grasper and the grasp, are just mental constructs devoid of self-substance. The more we see the world in emptiness, the less there is to hold on to. What are we holding on to every day? My life, my things, my possessions, my children, my grandchildren. You know, I really realize when I go and visit my grandchildren, okay, the little ones, they still need you. They still want to be with you. They're still around you and everything. The big ones, they've hardly even got time to say good morning. They're going off, then they've got a million activities. So when I'm meditating, I ponder. So you're running there and you miss them and you're holding on to them and you want them and everything. In the meantime, even when you're there, they haven't even got time to come and say good morning. If you're in a little separate cottage, they've hardly got time to come and say good morning. Only when they're little. By the time they're big, they go to school till 4 o'clock. They've got extramural activities. And by the time supper comes, they're on the iPads. I mean, that's the story of children today. So you think to yourself, what am I grasping onto? What am I grasping onto? I'm going to throw it open now. James Lowe says, if you grab something with your hand, if you grab it with your hand, say a watch, then my hand is not free. If I don't grab it, my hand is free. So if I grab a thought, oh, I can't stand that person. They really get on my nerves. If I grasp onto a thought, then my mind isn't free to have a fresh new beginning. So all of it is about, if I want my hand back, I must drop the watch. Simple, simple. If I want my mind back, I must drop the rubbish thought that permeates my mind from morning till night that I'm obsessed with at the moment, whatever it happens to be. He says, all simple, all day long, grabbing, grasping, building up, assuming, interpreting. He says we become packed with stuff and then more solid and heated up and protected. Wow. Protective over, really protective over everything that is your stuff. Protective over our stuff, which causes interpersonal conflicts, rivalry, confusion. So that is where you come to. Relax and release. Relax and release. Hello, Paul. It's nice to see you, even if it's late. New beginning. Relax and release. We're going to do a meditation on this rather than talk about it. But he builds up like this, telling you things. You know, when I read this man, I laugh because it's so relevant to who we are. It's so relevant. It's so pertinent to us. You know, you just look at yourself. You're on an aeroplane. You can't sleep. What do? You think about this. You grasp onto this. You plan the next day. You do this. You do that. You do the other. You know, why do we do that to ourselves? If we just had an absolute resting mind, then it wouldn't even matter if we didn't sleep. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Maybe some of you want to comment with pleasure. You're welcome, because I've given you a lot, from life is an echo right through to the carpenter building his house to James Lowe's thing of fresh new beginnings. Watch how your mind operates. So maybe someone wants to ask or say something with pleasure. Anyone? Because it's all how we live. It's exactly how we live. It's humbly. Yes, please, yes.
When my children, who are adults now, when they were little and I used to fly somewhere, I remember I used to think the telephone and the car keys cannot reach me here. And only then I would realize that those were the two things that were really heavy on me, because it was either the phone all the time or the car keys running with the children everywhere.
Yeah.
So sitting on the plane and not sleeping would give me such a positive feeling
Good for you.
that I don't need to, there is nothing I can do now. My life is in the hands of the pilot, and all I need to do is just relax.
Good. That's
So,
wonderful. You should give a talk to all the people sitting in their seats, watching movies the whole night, you know. That's beautiful, but it's right. But you see, it's a different story when your children live elsewhere, because then you're not with your children. So when you're not with your children, it's part of the grasping. You want them near you, you want them to be with you, you want them. And the thing is, when you get there, you actually realize you don't own them, they're not yours. They've got a life, it's completely separate from yours, you know. So you might be a little light or a little joy for 1 minute when they get bigger, you know, or to ask you a question, but actually they've already got a life. And so it is with everybody, not only your own, with everybody. What we're going to learn is, how can you make fresh, new beginnings with people? What do you have to do that? And James Lowe says, which I love this sentence, the ego is in a permanent trauma situation. Okay. The ego is in a permanent trauma situation. One day it's on, one day it's off. And the ego lacks the capacity to manage the complexity of existence. It cannot handle all the cross-cutting currents of freshly arising situations. Ego is linked to pride, he says, and pride has the solidity of a mountain, whereas the wisdoms are spacious and open. Life never stops. You get one bit of your life sorted and then something else goes wrong. But we want things to stay the same, he says. We're looking for stability in a world of change. And how can we get that stability? So let's do a little meditation, and then I'm going to give you some of his ideas. So we've come to the end of a year, quite a full year, quite a traumatic year. Many wars, many people getting killed, many dictators ruling the world without love and compassion. Many people getting killed, many people being in really difficult situations. We've had a whole year like this. And so there's lots to watch and to grasp onto and to hope for that's in the future, and to think back in the past. And we're looking for stability in a world of change. So these are his instructions. So again and again, relax and release. Relax and release. So I want you to test your body. I want you to see that every single part of you is in a relaxed state. Go right through your body, from your toes upwards, and feel a complete and total relaxation coming about your body. Let all your muscles ease, especially your neck, your back, your tension in your hands. Look into your face and feel any parts of your face that are tensed up, and just relax them. Relax your hands, relax your feet. Feel any level of tension. And as you breathe in and out and relax, you also release. Feel all the balloons you're holding on to. This one's sick, this one's lost children in this war. This one's a hostage. This one's in Palestine that is all crashed to pieces. This thing in my life, I've got financial worries, I've got problems, I've got to get my business right, I've got to make a little more money, I've got to handle these difficult people. I want you to just release everything. Relax and release all the tension in your face, in your body. And as you relax and release, I want you to feel the freshness of new beginning, new beginning, new beginning. This is fresh. The past is gone. The past is merely an echo, a memory of all the things that happened to you. Just release it. The future, it hasn't been made. It hasn't come. It might be this, it might be that. It might go this way, it might go that way. Let go of predictions of the future. It's all there, right there. You are here, right here, in this moment, in this precious moment, without telling yourself where you are. You are here, right here. If you trust your intuition, if you relax and release, you find yourself able to relate in an open way. No closed pot, no upturned pot, no pot with a hole that is jumping all over the place, your mind, and it all goes out. You are just here. You haven't got old food in the pot. You've cleaned out the pot of your mind. You let all the old, stale food be thrown out, and you've cleaned it. It's fresh. It's open. It's now. It's right here. The more conceptual analysis, the more difficult, the more limiting. No heavy ideas, no big thoughts. Just relax and release. Relax and release. All the things you can't understand, all the difficult people, all the moments in your life that are so difficult, just relax and release, as though you were going to see a new story, even in an old event, as though it were okay if things slip out of your hands, if what you did before isn't working anymore. Don't keep the old food in the pot. Empty it. Empty your mind. Relax and release. Relax and release. If we're looking for stability in a world that is changing every single moment, the only thing we can do is be right here in this present moment, relaxing and releasing and allowing, opening, spacious, absolutely spacious, pure, open, no preconceived ideas, just open. If somebody is sick, they are sick, we accept it, we give the love. If your life isn't working out as you really wanted it to be, it's also okay. It's perfect in this moment, perfect for what you need to learn, for what you need to do, for what you need to complete in this life. So relax and release. Relax and release. New beginnings. New beginnings. New beginnings. I mean, James Lowe has a wonderful way of looking at everything. And I just want to say, he says, if you take refuge in ordinary beings, you're going to get hurt. If you put all your refuge into an ordinary human being, you're definitely going to be disappointed. If you take refuge in money, in power, in your talents, in your beauty, sooner or later, you're going to lose them. They're impermanent and illusory, just the temporary nature of this lifetime. But when you take refuge in Buddhism, when you take outer refuge, it's a very interesting thing, because the outer refuge is in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, the community. It's an outer refuge. It's not a true refuge, because you're taking refuge in something outside yourself. Then it goes to the next level, which is taking refuge in the Guru, the Yidam, that's the deity that you are following, and the Dakini. That's also a kind of an outer refuge in a way. But the final ultimate refuge is so important. And every single day of my life, I say that secret refuge, and it goes like this. Okay, because it's really in your potential. It goes, Namo, in the empty essence, Dharmakaya, in the luminous nature, Sambhokakaya, these are all inside you, in the manifold capacity, Nirmanakaya, I take refuge until enlightenment. So in other words, when you're in an unstable world, you have your essence, which is the Dharmakaya, you have its nature, which is luminous and clear, which is the Sambhokakaya, and you have its absolute unlimited capacity, which is your Nirmanakaya. Now, he says in an unstable world, when you can take refuge, ultimate refuge, then your Buddhism gives you something really, really important, because you're taking refuge in those three. And he says, they're more stable, especially the three kayas, the three bodies. The most secure refuge, he says, is your own awareness. None of us take refuge in our own awareness. I was counseling somebody today, and this girl made such amazing comments in the midst of all her comments. And I said, for me, it's amazing, because I can see your awakened nature in some of the comments, but do you know what you do? She said, what? I'm not even aware. I said, when your awakened nature makes an intuitive statement, your human nature swallows it up and doesn't believe it and doesn't trust it and doesn't do anything, and then starts planning and preparing and having guilt trips and angers with yourself and with everyone around you. I said, what a pity. If when you have this amazing statement from your awakened nature, and I can hear it, I relate to it. She went like this. She said, Melanie, but how do I do that? I said, you start to use what we called, and she's not a Buddhist, she's never been to any of my teaching, said you start to use discerning wisdom. So you start to recognize, recognize what is coming from your human ego, insecure, unstable, permanent trauma situation, and what is coming from your awakened nature, which isn't even touched by your trauma. And when you hear that awakened nature speaking, you start taking trust and refuge in your own awareness, not in what you do. Because I can see how she goes back and forth. I can see that she gets this amazing thing right, and then she eats it up. It's like you see in those technology, you know, the games that kids play. Like that guy comes and he goes, I've seen with my grandchildren, you know, it eats up whatever there is. We eat up our awareness with our stupid egos, which are temporary, transient, illusory, impermanent. We have to change. Kathy, you're nodding. You're nodding. You needed a bash on your head to change. Now, don't change back, okay? It's important. But your own awareness is untouched by anything. It's primordially pure from the beginning. It's self-existing. It relies on nothing else. Can you rely on your intuition? Pam Kennedy, can you rely on your... She writes to me, she's so funny. She tells me this situation in her office, and she wants to know, how do you apply the wisdom to it? How do you apply one of the wisdom? So I told her how you applied the wisdom to her particular situation. I can't remember all the details. So she sends me a thumbs up. Now she's got confirmation from Melanie. She can go out and do it. Now get confirmation from Pammy, because you have it. You all have it. You all have to wake up and allow that Buddha nature. Don't use word Buddha nature. Just your whole awakened nature to operate. You know, I see with kids, it's the most amazing thing. There's one little grandson of mine. How old is he? 6. He's 6. Okay. He is as sharp as anything, but he gives this impression that he's as casual, he's so into football that the whole world is football at the moment. But you can't escape what he says. I heard him say a few times while I was there this week, be careful, that will become a karmic imprint, he tells his brother. Okay. Knows from me, he says, isn't that so, Mimi? And I said, 100%. But you think he's not taking any notice of anything you ever say. But he is. And he comes out with it just in a little drop here and there in the middle of the football, because football is his entire life, okay? But the point of the matter is that I watch these little ones and they use their awakened statements. But as time goes by, they use them less and less and less because they get swallowed up by what the parents are teaching them. They no longer have the freshness of anything. So when I had this new baby in my arms, I was telling him all about the wisdoms, and I was doing mantras for him, and I was saying, you're coming into this world, don't get caught in it, bring your beautiful nature. You know, I'm telling him all this while I'm sitting with him in my arms, and I'm doing all the mantras over him, and I'm putting them all over him. And, you know, I just hope he never loses it. I hope these children never lose whatever they've got spiritually. But it's so important for all of you. So I want to just do one more thing tonight, but before we do it, is anybody want to say anything? because it is profound what James Lowe says. And then if you put it into your own world, it's amazing. Because I know, Mimi, for you, I know that you have now got what it means, what the wisdoms mean, what it all is about. And you've got your notes and you've got your things. And now you have to apply it and trust it. And you too, Molly. Do you know what I mean? You've got to trust yourselves. You get it from somebody who's teaching you. Yes, Mim, what do you want to say?
Yeah, about that. You know, I've been finding that, you know, you've got this, sometimes your own confusing thoughts. And now
Right.
I say to myself, Om Varashana Om, and that absolute spaciousness, the wisdom of the Dharma Dhatu just dissolves it. But it really does. And that's just on a very, very practical level. Any of those stories you tell yourself. So that's an easy way to use the wisdoms, I think.
Oh, that's wonderful. What you're saying is wonderful. Each of those wisdoms, when you find yourself in a particular situation, and you just look quickly and you see, which is it? Is this the wisdom of perfected action? Is this the wisdom of the Dharma Dhatu? Is this mirror-like wisdom? Is this the wisdom of equality? You learn them, you bring them, like I said, into your life. And then when you make a statement, and really a lot of times these spiritual statements don't come from you, they come through you almost, if you know what I'm trying to say. So you think to yourself sometimes, I know I used to think it very often. I was sitting with someone and I'd make a statement which would surprise me. Like it would really surprise me that it came. It came from somewhere not in this human mind. That's why I don't want to go to school again if I come back. I just don't want to. You know, it's such a waste of time. It really is, like about 11 years or however long it is, 12 years of just utter garbage from people, you know. Send me to a Buddhist school then. At least I'll be learning the Buddha Dharma, you know. Anyway, I want to do one more thing. Mimi, that is very useful, very practical, and very amazing. Emaho. Okay, I'm very happy with that. James Lowe writes this thing, and I just want to do it quickly. It's called The Wonder of Being. And he says, living in a world of stories. Now, here's your stories, Mimi, okay? We live in a world of narratives or stories, very seductive and very powerful stories. All of us can tell the story of our life in different ways, accentuating some aspects and hiding others, of course. Of course, we also live in other people's minds as stories. When we meet people, we build up pictures about them. Sometimes this seems to be illuminating, he says. We go, aha, now I understand what this person is like. He says, but it's a filtration, because the more we know about people, the more we perceive them through the template that we have already developed, rather than seeing them directly. Now think about this. It's so important. You see people through the template you have developed with them. You don't see them with a fresh new beginning. You don't relax and release what you felt about them. You go back to the past of your experience with them. And maybe they've changed. Maybe you've changed. Maybe you don't take it so seriously anymore. But he says, despite this, we continue to carry the notion that we can see people directly, that we can see them directly. We think, if I get more information about you, I will see you more accurately, and so I'll get closer to you. But can you ever be close to someone? He says, you sit in a little restaurant, gazing into the eyes of the beloved. I don't know when, but anyway, they are gazing back in your eyes, okay? And you seem to be in the same place at the same time. But he says, is that true? You are trying to make sense of your experience, and a large part of your experience is interpretation. And he says interpretation means to put something in the middle, to put something in between. That is to say, our experience of the other person is mediated by the methods, the memories, the thoughts, and the theoretical constructs that we use as tools and vehicle for our interpretation. So, it's very interesting when I'm with my children, because all my children see me just as I was when they were growing up. That's the template they've got. They often make comments like, "Oh, Ma, you think this about this." And I go, "I don't, but they don't even hear my reply to that. They've got their preconceived ideas about who I am and how I respond. But actually, I don't feel like that at all." Now, how many times in your life and how many people around you do you use your interpretation based through your template and your sight? And so you can't see them freshly. And one of the most important things when you don't like somebody is to actually, or when somebody, because usually we don't like somebody because they touch one of the core inside us, one of the karmic imprints, one of the things that really worry us. They touch that with the way they speak, the way they talk, the way they touch, the way they don't touch, whatever. They do something to us that unnerves us in many, many ways. Okay. When we know somebody and we think about them, we might feel we have some insight into who they are. But perhaps it's just an X-ray of ourselves. What we make of the world, he says, is what we make of the world. So if we want to find out who someone else is, first of all, we better discover who we are. That's what he says. And he gives this example, which I love. He says, when a baby is first discovered to be growing inside a mother's body, okay, so a baby is growing inside a mother's body, already there are stories, hopes, doubts, hesitancies, fears, excitements, and so on. Before the baby comes out of the mother's body, okay, a space, maybe a room or a cot has been prepared for it. But not only is there a cot and a room, there's a whole conceptual system about this baby that is created as this baby comes out of you. There's a whole system. And maybe you want to do it the way your mother did it. Maybe you want to do it exactly the opposite way to how your mother did it, depending on what kind of mothering you might have had. He says, in any case, the thoughts are there even before the baby has been wrapped in its little blanket. It's been wrapped in thoughts, expectations, hopes, and fears. These thoughts have been communicated to other people as well, and the basis of a narrative is set in place. As that baby comes out of the womb, it's already got a whole narrative. Now, what are the implications of this? Viam, what are the implications of this? I mean, what if your mother's got a terrible narrative? What if your mother wants you to be everything she wasn't? What if your mother doesn't care and the narrative is created? Okay, give us your answer.
I don't necessarily have an answer to that. I was thinking about what you were saying, those preconceived ideas, and those conceptualizations that we have about people, and then we communicate. This is something that's come up in some of your talks before, like for me at least, like talking to a person, but becoming aware that you're talking to the idea that you have.
Exactly.
So it's like maybe like you what did you say? But it's also like a lens, you said that the template, the template, but it's also like the glass, and that colors the way you look at the people, and those conceptualizations, which takes back to wanting or aversion. And then anyways, I don't want to map the thing out, but like, so sorry, you've said so many things, but that beginning, the whole time when you're talking in the beginning, that the refuge thing came up for me. Like I felt like that's the, if I have a certainty, in the source of refuge, then I can, when things are moving around you in this outside world, and changing fast, and to keep that freshness and everything, like if I can really connect every day with that source of refuge and gain a certainty that I can liberate myself, and that it's right here. It's actually the most natural thing. It's not some weird, crazy, difficult thing. It's actually the most natural thing. Then at least for me, on a big picture, I feel really at ease. And then I can see when that kind of karmic momentum comes and it bowls me over and I just catch it from behind, then I'm like, I'm not going to make a fuss about this, I'm not going to attach to this and put another narrative on this and then stress upon the stress and then go down that hole. It's like, no, it's I like it more to be easy breezy, and
I love what you're saying, and it's beautiful. And that's the thing, that if we can catch ourselves, the whole thing is for new beginnings. Relax and release. That's so interesting. Always it comes up that I know that I was a judgmental person before. And I know that I'm not a judgmental person anymore. I really don't see myself as judging people. I see each person as unique and different in their world. And I've started to understand now that it doesn't matter if somebody doesn't like me or says a nasty thing to me. I'm still putting that question mark, like, who are you? Where is this coming from? And what is it in me that needs to change to be able to ease you into the world? I mean, have you ever thought that it's very important for you to ease other people into the world? Not come with the template. People have got ideas about people, and sometimes they just can't get out of it. They can't get a fresh new beginning. I'm sure that a person that is very unpopular and that lots of people don't like must often wish that they could just rub it all out and start all over again. Now, sometimes in your fresh beginning, when you release that horror that you might feel for that person, not even a horror, a judgment that you might feel for them, when you release that judgment, and now you're looking at them with curiosity, absolute curiosity. When you look at someone with curiosity, wow, how did you get to be there? How did you get to be like this? It must be so uncomfortable for you to keep on criticizing people or keep on judging people or whatever the case is. You have a completely new picture, and the picture is not based on your ego's template of what you want from a person. And what is amazing is it then becomes like the echo, because when you give out an understanding and compassion to that person who might really be quite a monster, it's absolutely amazing. I remember the first woman hostage that was released. She actually stated, I heard her state, they were very nice to me. Wow. That's the most unbelievable. She said, the terrorists were very nice to me. I mean, that's a statement beyond statements, That's not seeing it through the hateful template. It's maybe when you're sitting there and you're under a tunnel in a ground and you're looking at all these people, maybe in a way you can get to feel such compassion that they can think so in such a way. They've been conditioned. These babies, when they were born, they were told that unless you were this religion, death is really a wonderful place, because in death you will be rewarded in paradise. You actually feel a compassion, not a hatred. And that's what we're looking at here, changing that template. He said, our capacity to generate thoughts harmonious with the pattern of other people's thought is how we take our place. And we have connectivity with people, okay? And he says, not to live your life with the echo stories. In other words, you go to a place and you're always living in the memory of how it was, or how it was when this person was with you. You don't live in those memories. Each moment when you relax and you release brings a new beginning, freshness, being here now, not just echoes on the past. The past is gone. I can't go back into it. But by the miracle of storytelling, I can wrap these memories around me and never get out of them. That's really all I want to tell you all, because it's really very, very important that you actually understand the world. He says the world and ourselves as part of the world manifest as reflections of our own projection. In that way, we create the world out of our storytelling in our heads. And if we want
Mel,
please,
yeah.
Abby, I love to hear your voice.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. And I think what's so powerful for me is when you actually stop. It's not just liberating for yourself, it's liberating for the other people as well. So in releasing yourself, you actually release the other people, because you allow them the opportunity to also move into their sort of primordial self, their deepest self.
Exactly, precisely. Honestly, all your comments are wonderful. You really get this. You are so right. And it starts off, everybody, not with the narrative and the echoes of all the past, but with a fresh approach that I, in my temporary drama, and I'm in the right place at the right time. Everything that is happening to me is my very own creation somewhere back. If I'm not getting everything I want, then I have created that before, and now I need to bring a different echo, a different vibration, a fresh new beginning in the here and now. And you know, Dajjam Rinpoche said, in the age of degeneration, due to the uncouth nature of sentient beings and their powerful negative karma, every one of them clings to this life, which is no more than an episode in a dream, make long-term plans for living indefinitely, and show no concern for meaningful pursuits. And he says, in the teachings of Guru Rinpoche to him, he said, the lucid, luminous, absolute space as the ground, having the potential to manifest any kind of experience as the cause. The consciousness that grasps on the I serves as the contributing condition in dependence on the confluence of these two, the I and whatever it's grasping onto. All appearances manifest just like illusions. But we don't believe that.
Yeah.
But you know, sorry.
Please go ahead.
So I'm actually I'm in the middle of the Karoo, in the middle of nowhere, on a sort of self-retreat.
Okay.
But you know, what I find interesting is that you're in an environment that's so beautiful and you're curious about your environment. But if you just pause for one moment and maybe start to just be a little bit curious about how you are behaving, it actually opens up space. So it's
absolutely.
And that for me, that's so interesting to actually just take that moment and that pause.
Wonderful. Take that pause. What you're saying tonight makes my heart so happy. Take that pause and look around you and see that we all have a place somewhere. We just haven't always found it at that particular moment. But if we're in a negative situation, it means we've created those causes and conditions, and we need to allow them Just allow them, relax and release, allow them to play out. And that's so important. And Eugene, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I think there's a loneliness epidemic in the world with social media. Sorry, my camera is not working correctly, and I tried on my work laptop, but it's not working. So there's a loneliness epidemic in the world because everybody is stuck on their mobile phones. I think we all, if we're Salusa 45s and up, we will remember a time where you just called a house in hopes of finding somebody, or you would call a person to see if they're available. Now that is considered extremely rude and extremely invasive. So even if you're typing to somebody on WhatsApp and you think like, I haven't spoken to anybody in days, like, I'll call you. Like, it's like, thanks for the call, but I can't really talk right now. We'll talk. Not when, where, how. So, and I think I think COVID has had a big impact as well, in people being even more isolated and moving completely, hiding behind digital. You see it at work as well. People are in the office some days not, and then when they're not, they're hiding behind black screens. So, and I think it's because people are losing. So one, we're talking about people dropping the ego so they can truly see the person for who they are and not bring their own taint on it. But I think we're even beyond that now. It's like people don't even know how to communicate anymore. They're so involved in themselves and their own stories and their own narratives that it's not even seeing people for people anymore. It's that they've lost the, or they're struggling to connect.
You're absolutely right. And you know what? That is, I mean, James Lowe, I found those of you that want to read some of his stuff, they really are, they're lovely, lovely, lovely stuff, because he's a very down to earth, as you can see from what I'm reading you and what I'm giving you tonight. He presents tons and tons of stuff, but all of it is about these narratives that we've made about ourselves. And once we realize that those narratives are just illusionary perceptions that we have, and we let go of them, we really are on the way. And I want to end with my best, I want to end with my best fable of the porcupine, even if I've read it before, because I think it's really important. It was the coldest winter ever. Porcupines grouped themselves together to protect themselves, but they gave off heat, and their quills wounded each other. So they distanced from each other, but they died alone and frozen. What was the choice? What was the choice? Accept the quills of companions or disappear from the earth. Wisely, they went back together, and they learned to live with the wounds caused by close relationships. They survived. And the story at the end says, the moral, live with your imperfections and learn to love the pricks in your life. Okay, I mean, that's what it's
There are many.
lots. There are lots in us and there are lots in other people, but that's just the temporary illusion. So let's dedicate tonight. I want to do a special dedication for all of you, because I'm only going to see you in February, but I am around for quite a while. I'm going to Australia, but I am around for quite a bit of the time. And Kat, do you have the dedication? No. Okay, put it on, and then I just want to do a little dedication for all of you, and then I will certainly stay. There's a lot of food for thought here. So tonight, I want to dedicate to all of you first and foremost, to you beautiful, beautiful beings who are trying to go on the pathway of Dharma. It's not always easy. Life is not easy at all. But I'm dedicating all this teaching for your growth, for your development, and for you all on your little retreats to become enlightened, to become awake, to find your journey and just cross over the river. And mostly that's what I want to dedicate for all of you. And of course, for all the people that are caught in the wars, for all the bereaved, for all the people waiting for hostages to be returned, for all the terrorists, may their deluded minds be awakened. And may, through this merit, may we achieve all-seeing Buddhahood. That means to really awaken to that ability to see the world through your awakened nature. And thereafter, once all harmful enemies have been defeated, enemies that never existed really, except in our minds, may all beings be liberated from the ocean of existence, stirred by the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. Sonam die tamche zipane toke nepe panam tamche Pega nachi bala tropaye sipe sole duadro warsho. So that brings us to the end of a year